Hello everyone, back tuning into today's second video. Going to have a look at the weather for the next week to 10 days for today's second video, which will take us to around the 20th of August. We'll be able to extend out beyond that with the extended GFS and ECM ensembles running to around a couple of weeks. That gets us into the late summer bank holiday weekend, and in fact we will have an update for the late summer bank holiday weekend coming up for you probably later on this evening, so around 7 o'clock this evening. I think we'll do the first update for the late summer bank holiday weekend. So the weekend forecast has just been released. It's a very unsettled week coming up, starting off with gales at the moment. So if you want to know all about the weather we've got coming up right now and over the next few hours and then in the week ahead, then do have a look at the weekend forecast and see what's going on there. So without further ado, let's get on with today's second video update. So we're going to start off with the central England temperature. This is how things are currently standing. Provisional from Hadley, so up to yesterday, 9th of August, so we're 10 days through the month now, of course. Standing at 18.5, very, very warm actually, CT, up to yesterday. That's 2.5 degrees above average. This has been a pretty hot first week to 10 days of August. A lot of it's down to warm minimum temperatures, I think. It's not been overly warm really with the maximum temperatures. There have been some warm days. It's had temperatures sort of mid to upper 20s, but we've not had anything excessively hot. We've had no sort of 30 Celsius days during the first week to 10 days of August. But however it's happened, we have had a very warm first week to 10 days of August. It's going to be downhill all the way from now, though, I think. So next couple of weeks going to see quite a big and significant drop in this. So I imagine by sort of this time in 2 weeks, we'll be back very close to, or possibly even a little bit below average, maybe. And then that will leave us with the final week of August to determine whether we come out slightly above or slightly below average. But I don't think it'll be a particularly big deviation. I think we can unravel a lot of that 2.5 degree anomaly over the next week or two. So downhill all the way there, but it has been a very warm start to August. Well, these are the 500 millibar height anomaly flowcharts from Penn State University for the next week to 10 days. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which we will have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 85 feet is an area in the atmosphere. High pressure and low pressure are being moved around by the jet stream. Red extrapolates high pressure, blue to low pressure. So in week 10 time frame, this takes us to around the 20th of August. You can see that the ECM still has us unsettled. We've got extensive northern blocking, signal there, high pressure around Iceland and extending back into the Arctic and the North Pole, and we've got below average heights as a trough in the 500 millibar flow sitting over and to the east of the country. Just a little bit of ridging down towards Portugal, so a bit of a ridge from the Azores high, but essentially this is still unsettled. Pretty cool. Jet streams being pushed south as indicated by the tight lines there, so we're on the cool side of the jet. We're close to trough of low pressure and we've got northern blocking. So basically, if it can go wrong, it is going wrong there for the summer. And so the upshot is that will be pretty cool and pretty unsettled out to the 10-day time frame. The GFS is very similar, but it's even worse, really. So this is GFS, and again, we've got northern blocking to our north, so high pressure is up there. But the reason it's worse of ECM is that the trough of below average height is actually centred over the top, right over the top of the UK. The ECM has had a little bit to our east, actually. They're very similar. They're just placing the below average heights of trough within the 500 millibar flow in a slightly different place. But essentially, they're doing the same thing, which is looking very unsettled, pushing the jet stream south. They've got northern blocking, which feeds cool air into this trough of below average heights. And so, again, the upshot is it's cool and it's unsettled, potentially very unsettled, as we're going through the week to 10 day time frame. Certainly no signs of a return of summer within the next 10 days at least. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles for the next couple of weeks. We're at Liverpool today. So red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Liverpool, and we can see that at the moment we're still ever so slightly above average, but it's downhill all the way. As I said about the CET, it's going to be reflective of other parts of the atmosphere in the country. So temperature's pretty much downhill all the way now for it to be early part of next week when we're cooler than average. We do get one or two warmer sectors coming through next week, so signs of a little bit of a zonal sine wave. There will be a few warmer sectors involved next week as areas of low pressure coming across the Atlantic. However, we also have cooler sectors as well. These cooler sectors just here. And unlike in winter, of course, when a zonal sine wave, so you've got warmer sectors and cool sectors alternating, in winter, a zonal sine wave will still be a milder than average temperature signal, because when you're in the warm sector, it's very mild. In winter, when you're in the cold sector, it's not particularly cold, and to get proper cold weather in winter, you need frosty nights and that sort of thing, which you don't tend to get when you've got a strong westerly flow. So in winter, a zonal sine wave will be a milder than average signal, but in summer, it's the opposite. A zonal sine wave will actually be quite a cool signal. So that's probably coming out cooler than average through the next 10 days. Beyond that, going into the extended range of the GFS, for quite a long part of it, or quite a big part of it, it's below average. Just one or two hints there of a bit of a warming trend, perhaps starting to appear right at the very, very end of the ensemble. And this is sort of into Bank Holiday weekend and into the final week of August. There are just one or two hints there that the temperatures are picking up. But that's very, very extended range. It's 2 weeks or more away from where we are right now. So obviously there's going to be a huge amount of uncertainty at that sort of time scale. But just one or two hints of things going a little bit warmer there, perhaps for the final week of August. Precipitation-wise, lots of rainfall coming up. Showers for the rest of the weekend into the early part of next week. Then more general areas of wet weather through the course of next week. Potentially very wet and windy at the end of next week again. And then staying pretty showery, really, as we go out even into the final days of August. Temperature anomalies from the temp to the 18th of August. Overall, a little bit below average, so it's a relatively cooler than average week coming up. We're not alone. Most parts of Western Europe are a bit cooler than average too. Precipitation anomalies are wetter than average from the temp to the 18th of August, so it's a cool and unsettled and quite wet week coming up. This is how the GFS is looking for Tuesday. So this is all covered by weekend forecast, of course. But on Tuesday, we might bring an area of wet weather in across England and Wales, particularly the south, through the morning, and then back to sunshine and showers in the afternoon. And then another little trough could move across the country, maybe bringing some more wet weather on Wednesday, again, particularly focusing on England and Wales for that one. We're into sunshine and showers with westerly wind on Thursday. And then Friday through to Saturday, look at this, here comes the next low. Very deep area of low pressure sweeping in across the Atlantic. That wouldn't look out of place, that chart, in October or November. It looks very autumnal. The central pressure of that low pressure, can you believe, to west of Scotland, the central pressure of it is going down to 975 millibars. It's probably over top. I struggle to think that on the 17th of August we're going to have a low pressure, going to have a depression with a central pressure of 975 millibars just to the west of Scotland. But if we do, then obviously it will be wet and windy, potentially very windy, with near autumnal gales again this time next week. Then we go off into the rest of the weekend looking very showery, quite windy too. Moving up towards day 10, we get just a little bit of a transient bump of high pressure building up to the south, but it's only ahead of these next developing areas of low pressure in the Atlantic, and in they come as we go a little bit beyond day 10. We flatten the ridge off, we turn the wind into the west, so there's more showers, if not longer spells of rain spreading in from off the Atlantic there. Heading up into the final stages of August, which gets us to 384 hours away. It's Monday the 26th of August. This is Bank Holiday Monday. As I say, late summer Bank Holiday updates will begin tonight at Galsworthy's. But on Monday, 26th of August, is actually building up a little bit of a ridge to the southwest. So just a few hints again there. Something a little bit drier perhaps coming up, and maybe a little bit warmer coming up for the final week of the month. But that's very extended range. It's 2 weeks or more away. Reliably, it looks unsettled. This is GM, so again, that's looking rather showery on Tuesday. Could be more persistent area of rain in the south of Tuesday as well. Another trough indicated by the elongation in the isobars just here, heading in from off the Atlantic as we go through into Wednesday. Again, that could bring an area of wet weather through Wednesday. There it is on midnight on Thursday, actually, centred across central parts of the country. So again, that could bring wet weather through the middle part of the week. We're into showers on Thursday, and then through to Friday and Saturday. Here comes that next area of low pressure. Not as deep with the GM as the GFS was showing with this low. So the central pressure with the GM goes down to around 990 millibars. That does look a little bit more sensible for summer, I have to say, but it's still the same broad idea. However deep that low gets, it's still bringing heavy rain and pretty strong winds in from off the Atlantic. Moving up towards day 10, the GM keeps things very unsettled. Low pressure's never far away, so that low pressure from the weekend is sitting in the North Sea by the time you get through to day 10, Tuesday 20th of August, and low pressure just there is probably going to roll in, bring another bout of wet weather we could run on another 24 hours. Winds are in from the northwest, so temperatures will be cool. And then this is how the ECMWF is looking. So on Tuesday, again, we might get a bout of wet weather down in the south. And then let's go through to the middle of the week. It's Wednesday. Low pressure begins to move in off the Atlantic. That could bring more rain around the middle part of the week. Turns winds into the north. The Thursday as that low pressure clears away, so rather cool and showery. On Thursday, Friday again looking rather showery, a little bit slower moving that low in from off the Atlantic. So this is Saturday. The other two models, the GFS and the GM, have that low well and truly sitting just to our west by midnight on Saturday. Of course, the GFS is very stormy at that point. The GM not as stormy, but the ECM actually still has that low pressure out to our west just here at midnight on Saturday. So slight delay bringing that low in. However, it does eventually come in, so by the time you get through to midnight on Sunday, there it is, sitting over top of the coast. Again, nowhere near as deep as the GFS. It's not whipping it up like mad like the GFS does, and take it down to a central pressure of 975 millibars, which would be really, really deep area of low pressure for summer. It's not doing anything as dramatic as that, but nevertheless, it still looks as though it would bring significant wet weather at the very least in from off the Atlantic, even if the winds won't be anywhere near as strong as what the GFS is showing. Then that low pressure moves out into the North Sea with the ECM on Monday the 19th. We get to day 10, and we're between two areas of low pressure, really. So we've got a low sitting to the east, or that low from the weekend is sitting to our east. We've got quite a deep area of low pressure there in the middle of the Atlantic. In between, there's a ridge of high pressure out to our west. However, that looks very flimsy, that ridge. It is a bit of a mid-Atlantic ridge. It does extend back into Northern Block, but it looks very flimsy, and I will think it's probable that this low in the Atlantic would just roll through the middle like that if we could run on a little bit beyond day 10. And probably keep the unsettled theme going. Let's just go back to that low pressure. I was just wondering whether there could have been any tropical origins with that low. I don't think there is actually. It's just this sort of area just here within the isobar disturbance area on sunny 18th. So I don't think there's anything tropical in terms of the origins of that. But it does deepen quite significantly as we get through to Tuesday, 20th of August in the middle of the Atlantic, day 10. So it's possible that if that low pressure is stalling there in the middle of the Atlantic, it's possible that this ridge could start to strengthen. But I think the most likely so, because it does look like rather a flimsy ridge that we've got there. It doesn't look particularly strong. So I think the most likely scenario is that the low pressure will just roll through the middle, the region will sort of break in half, and we just bring that next area of low pressure in from the west. So let's have a look at the ECM ensemble. So these are the scenarios that we have on the table for day 10. Today, day 10, of course, is the 20th of August. This is from the Icelandic metals. We have 25 members of the ECM ensembles. It's nearly 50%, nearly half of them. But unsettled at day 10 with low pressure through the country and to our east. High pressure up over Greenland. The jet streams coming through like that. So, continuation of unsettled conditions up to day 10 with those 25. 14 members of the ECM ensembles with below average heights out to our west, some above average heights down to our south, and quite a lot of northern blocking. So they'd be pretty unsettled too, I think, although southern areas could be a little bit drier. And then we've got 12 that have a ridge just there, and it's potentially extending through there. This includes the operation run, that's the run we're just looking at, with the below average heights for trough, then the low pressure, if you like, centred in the middle of the Atlantic, and low pressure to our east. So, again, you notice how flimsy that ridge is. That's the ridge from there, going through there, and then up to there. But you notice how flimsy that looks. So I reckon if we could roll on another day or so, that low would just roll through the ridge. So I think the ECM is also quite unsettled, actually. ECM operational run, I should say, is still quite unsettled at day 10. These are the options that we've got in 2 weeks' time. This gets us to 25th of August, into the bank holiday weekend. Have 15 members of the ECM ensembles with high pressure to our southwest and also blocking up to the north. Still potentially bringing in a westerly flow like that. 10 have high pressure over the top of the country. That's a little bit of a change. Below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. That's starting to settle things down and dry things out. But another 10 with a deep trough of below average heights centred over the top of the UK. So obviously that's much more unsettled. 9 down here with a ridge through the UK and going to our north. That's a drier, warmer option 2 weeks' time as well. And then 7 with a ridge building from the Atlantic through the UK and going to our east. Jet streams being pushed northwards there as well. So actually, let's get to 2 weeks out. There are a few hints here that we might start to see something drier and warmer developing over the bank holiday weekend. It's a very long way out. It's 2 weeks away. But I think the ECM ensembles anyway, and we did see it a little bit with the GFS ensembles too, I think the ensemble output is possibly beginning to hint at something drier and warmer for the final week of August, and potentially starting over that bank holiday weekend. It's a long way out. Just a few hints there. Let's see what CFSV2 has to say before we go. So these are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period takes from the 10th to the 16th of August. The coming week obviously is going to be unsettled. Trough of low pressure is dominating the weather. We're sending the jet stream south, and we also have extensive northern blocking up here. So if it can go wrong, it has gone wrong in week ahead, and that just looks pretty grim for what is still high summer, really. We go through to week 2, which is the 17th to 23rd of August. Below average heights then to the north of the country. Some above average heights beginning to develop down to our south. Starting to get the jet stream going a bit further northwards. However, it still looks pretty unsettled, I have to say that, especially for northern parts of the country. This is week 3. It's the 24th to the 30th of August. Below average heights then just sitting out to our west-northwest. Above average heights through central parts of Europe and going northwards. That's probably still quite unsettled too, but it would be a bit warmer. We'd be starting to drag the wind in from the southwest, and maybe the southern and eastern parts of the country beginning to settle things down a little bit. And then go through to week 4, and look at this. It takes into the first week of September. It's the 31st of August to the 6th of September. And high pressure is back. Above average heights builds in from the Atlantic and extends into northern Europe. Jet stream is moved off to the north like that. And so we get through to the first week of September, and that will be much warmer and drier conditions returning. possibly summer coming back in the first week of meteorological autumn, which does happen very regularly, as I say in the videos, but that's week 4 anomaly, so it's very unreliable. We can't say that that's definitely what's going to happen, but it is typical of what tends to occur at the end of August and the beginning of September. So it definitely looks as though the next week, 10 days, going to be very unsettled. Get through to around 2 weeks away. Maybe a few hints start to creep in. Something a little bit drier and warmer beginning to develop over the bank holiday weekend. Perhaps taking us into a drier and warmer final week of the month. And maybe we can roll that on into the start of September. We shall see. Right, don't forget to check out the weekend forecast. Very important weekend forecast today because it is encompassing all of the really unsettled weather that I've got at the moment. So if you want to know what's happening with the winds and all that sort of thing, then have a look at the weekend forecast. We're going to be back later on with a bank holiday weekend update. The first one counting down to the bank holiday weekend. Will that show something warmer and drier for the final bank holiday weekend of the summer? You'll find out tonight. Tomorrow we got more autumn analogues coming up to start tomorrow's videos, and we'll also have Gaz Weather's Sunday Roundup too. So keep checking back to the website for all of the updates. But that's all for now, and thanks for watching.